Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
What is a fact that can possibly save your life? Soy sauce is deadly if consumed in large quantities at once. So no stupid soy sauce dares or challenges, please. This is a New Zealand specific one, but all emergency numbers work here. The official number is 111, but 999, 000, 911, etc. will all work. This is so that tourists can still reach emergency services easily. Do not delay getting out of a burning building. The flames are not what will kill you. The smoke will get very thick and toxic very quickly and you will not be able to see the way to get out. If you ever almost drown to the point of throwing up water or passing out, even if you feel 100% fine, get to a hospital. Your lungs can unwittingly self-fill up with fluid over the next few hours. If you get impaled or stabbed, leave the object in and call 911 or your country's equal. That object is keeping all the blood on the inside of your body. If the wound is still bleeding, wrap cloth around the impaled object to try and stem the flow of blood. You can look up how to do a donut wrap. It's super quick and easy. If your cloth saturated with blood, cover it with another. Never take off a bandage. Chest compressions are important regardless of mouth to mouth. Keep going when, not if, you break their ribs too. It's going to feel really gross. But it happens. If you're in a group, swap out when you get tired. If you're alone, keep going until you physically can't or until emergency services arrive. And of course use the BGs, staying alive to keep the tempo. Lol edit. A few folks are talking about different tunes, tempos or going too hard causing the ribs to break. When you're there you will likely be pretty amped up, so you're probably going to get the tempo wrong anyway and you'll go harder than you did on the dummies in training. As for the legality of breaking someone's ribs doing compressions, in my country you're covered by a Good Samaritan clause and most professional organizations have liability coverage too. Remember, the person is dead if you don't pump on their chest and there's a good chance they'll be dead anyway. I only know of one instance close to me where someone survived needing CPR. My dad did it because dude is a badass. If you're visiting an unfamiliar location like a cinema or concert hall, take a few moments to look around for the nearest exit. Then pick out a second as a backup in case the first becomes blocked or cut off. If something happens, especially in a crowded public place, most people's first instincts are to turn around and head for the main entrance, but this is not always the closest, safest or easiest way out. 9 times out of 10 there will usually be a closer exit. If you smell a fish smell in your house, some people also report a urine-like smell for no reason. 9 times out of 10 it means there's an electrical fire. I actually was the hero in this situation, was visiting my sister a number of years back. Hanging out on her couch. Smelled a smell of urine with a bit of dead fish mixed in. I asked her what that was. She answered, "It's been here for weeks. We think a rat or squirrel got trapped in the walls." That didn't sound right to me. A dead animal would smell different. And for whatever reason, I googled, smells like urine. Electrical fire was the first answer. So, I sniffed all around the room. And found it was coming from the plug of an old lamp. Unplugged it. Odor vanished. Instant hero. There are no rules if a stranger puts their hands on you. Scream bloody murder. Kick. Bite. Make the biggest scene you possibly can and run away as fast as you can. Make sure your kids understand that this is the exception. The time they must draw as much attention as possible and do anything it takes to get away and get help. Had this conversation with my son the other day. He's a very hyper and loud kid and I told him if anyone ever grabs him he needs to be louder than he's ever been able to be. I also told him if he gets grabbed anything goes, pull hair, ears, poke eyes, anything, all while screaming. We practiced getting out of different holds too. Having children is the most stressful thing ever, haha. If someone is in trouble and you want to leap in to save them, make sure you have a way to get out yourself. I recently saw a video of a drowning man. Another man jumped in to try and save him. Instead, both drowned. Not for yourself, but someone else. First aid in general is not meant to be the only form of aid a person receives. If you give someone CPR, or use a defibrillator on them, or they have a severe allergic reaction requiring an EpiPen, you should still call emergency services immediately. These are just temporary measures to buy time until a medical professional can treat them more thoroughly. Similarly, chewing aspirin for a suspected heart attack still requires emergency services to treat the issue or rule out complications. Maybe not your life, but someone else's. Most drowning is silent. The victim quite literally cannot speak to call for help, as they are too desperately trying to get any air at all. Drowning can look simply like a person bobbing in the water until they no longer come back up. Keep a watch out, especially if it's kids. If you're being tied up, puff yourself out as much as possible so it'll be easier to wiggle out of. Tense muscles. Inhale deep and stretch out your arms and legs to make more space. Me and my classmates used to have competitions where we'd tie each other up with rope. It started out with hands but it went to full body and we'd time ourselves on how fast we could get out. It was also good practice for tying someone up since we got to see which methods worked best. I used to pull this trick all the time and get the fastest time. My hands would be really red and there would be lots of marks. But it was worth it. If you are ever buried in rubble, earthquake, tornado, building collapse, etc., don't shout. You'll lose your voice and waste energy. Instead, grab a piece of rubble and knock in patterns of threes. Humans are expert pattern makers and pattern notices. Rescuers will hear the distinctive pattern sound and go toward it. Once you can hear people, then use your voice. Edit, cite my source. I learned this from the podcast The Big One. It's about how to realistically survive a massive earthquake day by day with certain scenarios. If the ocean is retreating, there is a tsunami coming. Evacuate the beach immediately. Maybe not your life but possibly others. In an emergency situation, pick one person to specifically call 911. In lots of stressful or emergency situations there are significant delays in calling 911. Some people assume that others will call 911 while others panic, freeze up and don't think to call 911. If you're faced with a situation where 911 is necessary, pick a specific person to contact 911. If you get kidnapped, try to leave as much traces of yourself behind as you can. For example, leave bits of clothing behind or scratch your arms a lot to leave dead skin behind. This way you increase your chances that a search dog could pick up your scent and find you. I watched a crime show once where the victim left her hair everywhere in her abductor's car. She kept pulling single strands of hair out. When she was taken to the house of the person who took her, she pulled more hair out, touched everything she could to leave fingerprints behind, and even licked multiple places in his house. She managed to escape and they found evidence of her all over his car and house. Slam shut case. I wish I could remember her name so I could look her case up. Probably said already, but bad CPR is better than no. Even if you're unskilled, you literally cannot make the person more dead, as being dead is what predicates CPR. If you have a puncture wound to the chest or abdomen, the first thing you should do is place a non-porous, think plastic bag, object over the wound. It will help prevent tension pneumothorax. A tourniquet is quite simple to put on and can save a life if there is no other option. Place close to the site or near, not on, a joint. Never remove a tourniquet once placed, as clots can travel to the brain and lungs. Also mark the time you put it on. If you're at an accident scene and have no medical training, something you can do is collect information and help calm victims. This is quite helpful as it assists the paramedics with triage and keeps potential injured person's heart rates down. Alternatively, learn how to hold C-spine. If your car ever gets stuck on the train tracks, look for a sign on the crossing arms. This is the Railway 911 and has a number to call to stop traffic as well as your exact location. If you've been cut deeply, pack gauze into the wound as tightly as possible, then hold pressure. If you are driving in inclement weather, pay attention to truckers. They are often warned ahead of time of wrecks and things due to their radios. Also, never drive in the rain without headlights. Never pull out a gun or any weapon unless you are prepared to kill or die. Weapons escalate the situation to another level. If you have a weapon, intend to use it and risk having it used on you. I read somewhere if a stranger gets in your car and tells you to take them somewhere, drive into something like a lamp post or anything. You won't be useful to them anymore because the car is damaged and you've drawn attention to them by crashing the car. You'll damage your car, but you'll have your life and your bank account. Someone at my college did this a few years ago. The guy told him to drive to the bank and withdraw all his money, so he drove into a lamp post and saved himself. Do not inflate your life jacket before exiting the aircraft. This is XA0 especially true in XA0 case of XA0 emergency water landings. As XA0 any air safety expert would tell you. Inflating your life jacket inside a XA0 rapidly submerging airplane will cause you to XA0 float up XA0 to XA0 the cabin's ceiling. Unable to XA0 move without help. The right thing to XA0 do XA0 as XA0 to XA0 take a XA0 deep breath and swim out of XA0 the airplane with your life jacket still deflated. Only when you're safely out of XA0 the plane should you pull the inflation cord. Never ever place an extension ladder on a smooth concrete floor and climb it unless the feet have rubber pads attached to them. Otherwise there is a very real risk that as you climb higher, your weight will cause the feet to slide out from under you because there is very little friction between aluminum and smooth finished concrete. I've climbed ladders countless times and then one day I did this and it almost killed me. Shattered my wrist and almost broke my back. Life forever altered. If you're lost in the wilderness and need something sharp to hunt, defend with. Make a spear by hardening a soaked branch, stick over a fire. The water prevents the stick from burning, but the heat from the fire forces the branch to condense and harden, making them more durable. If you need to call 911 and you're too busy helping the victim, CPR, specifically point at someone and say, you. Call 911. Instead of somebody, call 911. It snaps a person out of bystander's effect and they act. If you have an iPhone, pressing the lock screen button 5 times rapidly will initiate a call to emergency services. Handy for if you don't want to show you have a phone by removing it from your pocket. It will dial automatically. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. See you next time.